everybody, my name is Amanda and today we are going to talk all about exam essays. I know that I haven't uploaded a video in about a month, but I decided that I wanted to take a break when I went home for Easter holiday because I needed to study for my own exams and I wanted to spend time with friends and family as much as possible, so that's why. But hopefully I will be a bit more consistent from now on. And I just wanted to say this is not just about the IB diploma program. I think about this when I write essays for university as well. So this will be targeted more towards essay writing and exam conditions in general. And I hope you find it helpful. If you do, give it a big thumbs up. And without further ado, let's get started. So in short, this video will have two parts. And the first part will be about tips and tricks about writing exam essays in general, and it will focus on things like outlines and what you should focus on outline wise, point wise, theme wise, structure wise, and that sort of thing. And then the second half of the video I will talk more about how to write a comparative essay and the strengths and weaknesses of writing theme wise, or if you're going to write like about one book first and then another book and then have another paragraph comparing the two. So those things I will talk about more in depth in the second half of the video. So the thing that everyone keeps nagging you about, that is the most important thing, I can't stress it enough, is to make your outline. And I know that's what everyone says, but if you just jump straight into your essay, you will start rambling. You will lose a lot of points on not being structured. Even though you might think you have a clear idea of what you're doing, it'll still come off as rambly no matter what you do. If you're currently not doing outlines for your exam essays, then you definitely should do that because it is the single most important thing. If you take one thing away from this video, it is make an outline. So the second thing is then about how you should structure your paragraphs, and the thing that I have found work the best is the PEE system. And the basic structure is that you start off with your point you want to make in your paragraph. It should be clear in the first sentences of that paragraph what you're going to discuss, what approach you're taking, and that sort of thing. Then you would want your example, which would then strengthen the argument and the point you're making. And after your example, which will hopefully be a quotation or that sort of thing, that's where you have your sort of explanation of why your quotation supports your point. So that's kind of the overall structure you want to have in your paragraph. Point, example, explanation. How do you then get your point across in the first couple of sentences? You have to really work on your topic sentences, and if that's something you're not familiar with, you should definitely familiarize yourself with it. And it is basically that the first sentence in every paragraph is sort of a little summary of that paragraph, to put it simply, and it will show your point and the idea you're putting forward in this paragraph. And it should be a really strong sentence and it should really open up the paragraph really strongly. It is something that is worth practicing because getting your topic sentences right is, in my opinion, quite difficult, and I do struggle with it to this day. So just looking into and practicing your topic sentences in order to get your point across as clearly and as structured as possible will definitely help you out when you're in that exam. So now we need to know the basic structure of how you're going to structure your paragraphs, those sort of thing. One thing that then is important to think about is your introduction and your conclusion, and especially your introduction, because that is the first thing that the examiner will read, and it has to really capture his or her attention. It has to be really, really clear, to the point, and you do that through signposting. And that's why it is really important that you have your outline, because in your introduction you need to tell the examiner what you're going to do in the rest of the essay. So you might have a sentence, and people do argue about this, but I have always heard, and it works really well for me, that you should have a sentence in your introduction that clearly states, in this essay I will discuss this, this, and this by doing this, this, and this. And there you have your outline pretty much set out for you. That will be an easy tick on the mark scheme. Then you of course have to follow that outline, but if you do, you got your structure down very, very clearly and your examiner will love you for it, I promise. Another thing is the beginning of your introduction has to be really strong, and you can always go with the fail-safe if you're doing literature, for instance. blah 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 is a novel written by blah 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 and covers the theme of blah blah blah, for instance. But you could also make your introduction stand out and have a really strong first sentence. We worked really hard with our first sentences throughout our IB revision for English A, and the approaches we had were, for instance, this adjective, comma, adjective, and then you're off from there. So you could come prepared with two really good adjectives, and if they alliterate, then even better. You could also use two nouns, for instance, and that would be two themes that is covered in the novel: marginalization and exclusion. Two themes covered in Arundhati Roy's The God of Small Things helps us understand blah blah and blah. So just try to see if you can have one or two sentences prepared when you go into the exam. That will make your examiner really snap to attention because your essay, your introduction stands out to him or her. Then when it comes down to the conclusion, it is really important. Two things: do not introduce any new content in your conclusion, because not a good idea. And the second thing is, do not just summarize but synthesize. That's a hard word. Do not summarize but synthesize. And that means basically that you should take the points you've made in your essay previously and try to sum them up in a way that makes you see them in a different light. That might not make the most perfect sense, but you have to not just rehash what you've written, but kind of take that to the next level in the conclusion, if possible. So that was the introduction and conclusion. The next thing about general essay writing is try and bring at least one or two quotes with you into the exam, and one or two is probably not enough, to be honest. I would advise probably like 5 or 6 per novel, but if that's not possible, it's aim for at least 2-3 for each novel that you're doing and that sort of thing. Because if you have quotes that you know are universal, that can support your thematic points, then that will help you immensely. Another thing is that you should really try to switch up your language, so don't just use the same adjectives over and over again, that you do have prepared a few adjectives that fit into what you're discussing in the essay, so you will be able to make your language a bit more vivid. Because usually if you're doing any type of language or literature or anything, there will be a criteria that will assess your own language. And if you have a good set of adjectives and nouns and verbs coming in with you, really strong words, then that will definitely just bump your essay up to the next level, and that's just preparation, because it's so easy to achieve. And the last thing is, of course, proofread. I know that we usually don't have time for it, but if possible, take the last 5 minutes to read through your essay. You might miss entire words, your sentence structure might be weird. Just a quick read through will ensure that you don't miss anything stupid like that. So that was just my general tips and tricks about how to really bump up your exam essay to the next level. But something that I get asked frequently, and that we discussed a lot in the IB Diploma program between my English literature and my Swedish literature, was if you write a comparative essay, should you write it thematically? That means that you have 2 novels and you discuss, let's say, theme 1, 2 and 3. So you discuss novel A and B, theme 1, then you discuss theme 2, novel A and B, and then you discuss theme 3, novel A and B. Or should you do it the other way around, which is novel A, theme 1, 2, 3, novel B, theme 1, 2, 3, and then an overarching, synthesizing, concluding paragraph. And the first thing to say is that there's no correct answer to this, but usually is that if you do the thematic one, if you do that well, it will be an overall better essay than if you did the first this novel, then synthesis. If you did that really well, then usually the thematic one is a better option. But then again, it would be so much better if you have your novel A, novel B synthesis. If you make a really good essay that way, that is definitely better than making a crappy thematic one. You have to judge your own abilities and how well you think you'll be able to do the thematic one, because it's not worth writing a shite essay if you could have done it really well if you just went with the other system. So the benefits with writing a thematic based essay would then be that, let's say you run out of time, then you have already compared your essays. You have compared them in theme 1 and theme 2 maybe, but you didn't get to theme 3. But that means that you have a comparative essay. But let's say you run out of time with the other model. That means that you only have written about the first novel. You don't have anything about the other one. And that would mean instant failure because you have not written about 2 texts. That is not comparative essay. But overall, I would say from my own personal experience from talking to different teachers about this, that is that you pick out a theme per paragraph and then you compare your novels continuously throughout that essay, because in that way you won't repeat yourself too much, because if you do it the other way, that means you will have novel A, novel B, and then novel A and B, the same material again. But the most important thing is that you're comfortable with the way that you're writing, because a good essay in one of the types is definitely always better than a crappy essay in the other one, because it's all about writing a good essay in the end. And that was all I had to say about that. Pretty much. And I know this is quite late if you're in the IB diploma program, but I know that the English exams are on Wednesday, and if you are taking them, good luck. I know you will do very, very well. And to everyone else who are writing exams, good luck to you as well. Good luck to me as well. I have exams next week. And I will try to make another video next week. I'll try to make time, and that's pretty much all I have to say for today. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask them in the comment section. I will gladly answer them. If you like my content, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.